Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Easy English Spark. Today, we'll boost your English listening and speaking skills by diving into Thomas and Elena's journey from the quiet traveler to dawn of tomorrow. You'll pick up new vocabulary, real conversational phrases, and listening practice as their story unfolds. By the end, you'll feel more confident speaking English in everyday situations. Let's light up your English journey. Chapter 1: The Quiet Traveler. My name is Thomas Hayes, and I am 80 years old. I live by myself in a small wooden cabin on the edge of a peaceful river town called Maple Glen. Every morning I wake up before the sun rises. I sit near my stone fireplace, listen to the crackling logs, and warm my stiff hands around a cup of black tea. The cabin smells of cedar and smoke. Outside, the first birds sing soft notes that drift through the open window. When the sky turns pink, I step onto my porch and breathe the cool air. Mist floats above the river like a white blanket. I watch the water move slowly past the tall reeds. Some days I see a family of ducks gliding by. Other days I see only ripples and my own reflection. The gentle sound of the current calms my thoughts. After breakfast, usually a slice of bread with honey, I put on my brown coat and walking stick. Maple Glen is small, so I know every lane, every gate, and every oak tree. I stroll down Willow Street, where the houses are painted blue, yellow, and green. Children wave to me on their way to school. I smile and raise my hand, though they hurry, past with bright backpacks and laughter that echoes in the crisp air. I stop at Mr. Carter's bakery for a fresh roll. The sweet smell of cinnamon fills the shop. Mr. Carter always greets me the same way. "Good morning, traveler." He calls me that because I walk so much. We chat for a minute about the weather. Then I tuck the warm roll into my pocket and continue on my path. As I walk, I notice small details that many people miss. The shiny acorns on the ground, the spider webs that sparkle with dew, the faint tracks of rabbits in the dirt. These little things remind me that life is still rich, even when it feels quiet. Yet quiet can also feel lonely. My wife, Margaret, passed away 20 years ago. My sister, Ruth, moved to another country, and we rarely speak. I have no children. Some evenings, when I return to my empty cabin, the silence feels as heavy as stone. I hear only the ticking clock on the wall and the distant hoot of an owl. On such nights, I open Margaret's old music box and let its soft melody fill the room. The tune brings back warm memories, but it also brings a sting of sorrow. To keep my heart from growing cold, I write in a small leather journal. I describe the color of the river at dawn, the soft crunch of leaves under my boots, and the gentle faces of the townfolk. Writing helps me feel less invisible. On the shelf beside my bed, I keep a row of these journals, each one a year of my life. Sometimes I read an old entry and feel as if I am traveling through time. I call myself a traveler, but I never leave Maple Glen. My journeys happen on the narrow roads, along the riverbank, and inside my memories. Every day is a simple loop, cabin, village, river, cabin. Some might think it boring, yet each loop carries its own small surprises. A new bird song, a sudden snow flurry, a smile from a stranger. As autumn fades into winter, the air grows sharper. The river slows under thin sheets of ice, and the trees stand bare against a silver sky. On one late afternoon, as the first snowflakes fall, I feel a curious electricity in the air, as if something is about to change. I pull my coat tighter, lift my collar, and continue my slow walk home. The fading daylight paints the rooftops in pale gold. Smoke rises from chimneys, and the smell of pine drifts across the street. By the time I reach my cabin, darkness has settled. I light the lamps and hang my coat by the door. I place the bakery roll on a plate, though I am not hungry. Instead, I sit in my old rocking chair, gaze into the fire, and listen to the wind tapping against the window. The world outside feels endless. The world inside feels small. I wonder, as I often do, what tomorrow will bring. Perhaps it will be another quiet day of tea, walking and writing. But deep in my chest, there is a tiny spark, an unnamed hope that something unexpected may appear on the road. Something that will remind me that life still holds new chapters, even for an old traveler like me. With that thought, I close my eyes, breathe in the scent of burning wood, and let the fire's glow wash over me. The wind sighs, the river murmurs in the distance, and I drift into a light sleep, still sitting in my chair, still holding on to the gentle promise of the coming dawn. Chapter 2: A Shadow in the Snow. The first true snowstorm of the season fell on Maple Glen the evening everything changed. Thick white flakes drifted down like slow-moving stars, covering rooftops, roads, and riverbanks in a hush so deep I could hear my own heartbeat. I had spent the afternoon reading beside the pot-bellied stove in the town library, letting the hours slip past while the storm gathered strength outside. When the bells in the courthouse tower chimed 6, I buttoned my wool coat, slid my journal into one pocket, and stepped onto Birch Lane for my nightly walk home. Street lamps glowed amber against the swirling snow, their light pooling on the ground like small fires. Each time my boots pressed the fresh powder, a soft crunch echoed through the empty street. It felt as though the entire town had been wrapped in cotton. No barking dogs, no distant engines, only wind and the steady tick of flakes landing on my hat. I tucked my scarf tighter around my neck and began the mile-long trek toward the river, thankful for the stillness. Halfway down Sycamore Avenue, I paused at a familiar iron fence to catch my breath. Breathing mist rose in front of my face, silver in the lamplight. Beyond the fence lay the town square, completely deserted, its benches blanketed in white. In that moment, I felt wonderfully small, as though the snow had washed the slate of the world clean and left me as solitary as the last page of a book. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Fast, uneven, and gaining on me. At first I thought the sound belonged to my imagination, some trick of wind through tree branches. But the steps grew louder, crunching rhythmically in the snow behind me. I turned, squinting through the wind, and saw a dark figure, a woman, running up the avenue. Her coat flared behind her like a wing, and her boots slipped on the icy patches. Long hair, loose and dusted white, whipped across her face. Even from a distance, I sensed urgency in her movements, as if she were chasing the last train out of town. "Michael!" she called, her voice cracking in the frozen air. The name, Michael, rang off the stone facades and reached me like an echo in a dream. For a moment I stood rooted, unsure whether she was calling someone farther ahead, but there was no one else in sight, and her gaze was fixed on me. I lifted my gloved hand in gentle warning. "Miss, careful. The road is slick," I said, my breath feathering in the cold. She didn't slow down. Snow spiraled around us. The world outside the lamplight blurred into gray shadows. She reached me, gasping, and grabbed the sleeve of my coat. Her eyes, wide with a mix of hope and terror, searched my face. "Michael, it's really you," she breathed. "I knew I'd find you." I stared back, stunned. "I'm sorry," I managed, voice low. "My name is Thomas. You must be mistaken." She shook her head so vigorously that snow sprinkled off her hair. "No, you look exactly the same. I've been looking for you for so long." Her words stumbled over each other, driven by desperation. Tears welled, mixing with melting snowflakes on her cheeks. Up close, I saw how exhausted she was. Her coat, thin, not suited for a blizzard, clung damply to her shoulders. A knitted glove was missing from her left hand. The bare fingers trembled in the cold. I felt a pang of concern strong enough to eclipse my confusion. "Please," I said, softly prying her hand from my sleeve. "Let's step out of the wind. There's a covered bus shelter just ahead." She nodded, either from agreement or simple lack of strength, and followed as I guided her under the small glass awning. Snow drummed steadily on the roof. The shelter's fluorescent bulb flickered, but offered a pale refuge from the storm. I brushed powder off the bench and motioned for her to sit. She remained standing, still staring at me as if afraid I might vanish. "I'm Thomas Hayes," I repeated gently. "Not Michael. What's your name?" She hesitated, as though speaking it might shatter something fragile. "Elena," she whispered. "Elena Brooks." Her teeth chattered. I unclasped my scarf and draped it over her shoulders. She hardly noticed. Her gaze roamed my face, mapping every line and wrinkle, hunting for proof she wasn't wrong. "You've been searching?" said, trying to keep my voice calm. "For your brother?" She swallowed hard. "Yes. Michael left home 10 years ago. I followed every rumor, every half-forgotten lead." She trailed off, hugging her arms around her chest. "Tonight, when I saw you in the snow, I thought..." Emotion strangled the rest of her sentence. I felt the weight of her hope pressing on me like the cold itself. The fluorescent bulb buzzed overhead. Beyond the shelter, the road looked like a pale river winding between silent houses. No cars, no other travelers, only the two of us and the storm. "I don't know what Michael looked like," I said, "but I can tell you I'm not him. I'm sorry, Elena." She closed her eyes, and a shudder ran through her frame. For a heartbeat, I feared she might collapse. Then she opened them again, and her shoulders sagged as if the energy that had pushed her through the snow had finally drained away. "Maybe the light played tricks," she murmured, voice barely audible. "The snow..." "The wind. I wanted it so badly to be him." Pain etched itself across her features, sharp and raw, like ice on skin. I felt strangely responsible for that pain, though logic said I was only a stranger who happened to resemble a memory. A gust of wind rattled the shelter. "You're freezing," I said. "There's a bookshop 2 blocks from here. The Lantern. It stays open late, and they keep a kettle of cocoa on the stove. Will you let me walk you there?" Elena hesitated, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. But another burst of wind swept snow onto our boots, and she nodded. "Thank you," she said, barely louder than the snow's whisper. We stepped back into the storm. I offered my arm. She took it, her fingers icy through the glove I'd given her. Together we moved through Maple Glen's snow-buried streets, the lamplight guiding us like breadcrumbs. With each step my mind churned. Who was Michael? How long had she wandered alone? And why did fate, on this night of all nights, decide our paths should cross? Questions floated around me like flakes in the dark. Yet one thought cut through them all. Some stories begin when a shadow steps out of the snow and calls your name, even if it isn't the name you wear. Ahead, the warm glow of the lantern bookshop beckoned, promising light, heat, and, perhaps, answers we both desperately needed. Chapter 3. A Name on Her Lips. I push open the heavy oak door of the lantern bookshop, and a soft brass bell sings overhead. Warm air, thick with the scent of paper and cinnamon cocoa, wraps around us like a blanket. Shelves climb from worn floorboards to shadowed ceiling beams, each packed tight with novels, atlases, and time-softened diaries. A single stained glass lamp on the counter scatters colored light across the room, turning the drifting snow outside into pieces of slow-moving amber and blue. Elena takes 2 uncertain steps inside, then stops. Her boots drip melting snow onto the welcome mat. She presses my scarf closer to her neck and looks around as if she has landed on a distant shore. I notice how pale her lips have become, how her shoulders still tremble beneath the thin coat. Sit by the stove, I suggest, pointing to a pair of leather armchairs beside an iron potbelly heater. The cast-iron top clicks and sighs with gentle heat. She nods, walks over and lowers herself carefully, as though the chair might break her fragile hope. Old Mr. Whitaker, the shopkeeper, peers at us from behind a stack of dusty adventure novels. His spectacles rest near the tip of his nose. Evening. Thomas, he murmurs, wiping his hands on a linen cloth. Storm caught you, did it? Caught us both, I answer. Could we trouble you for 2 cups of cocoa? He follows my glance toward Elena, registers the shaken look in her eyes, and offers a kind smile. Of course. While he disappears into the back room to warm the kettle, I hang our coats on a wrought iron rack and join her by the stove. Orange firelight dances across her face. I see new lines of fatigue etched beside her eyes, lines likely carved by years of searching dusty bus stations and forgotten towns. She studies me as though each second might change the shape of my features. Her voice comes out small. When I ran after you in the snow, she begins, I was so sure. I would have sworn before any judge that you were my brother. It was dark, I say gently, Snow can play tricks. She shakes her head. It wasn't just the snow, Thomas. It was you. The way you turned when I called. The tilt of your shoulders. She bites her lip. For a moment, I believed the world had finally given him back to me. A log shifts inside the stove, sending sparks swirling behind the grate. I choose my words with care. Tell me about Michael. I want to understand what you saw. She exhales, a long, trembling sound. Michael was 27 the last time I saw him. Taller than I am by a head, freckles across his nose, a laugh so bright you could hear it from the garden. He smelled of cedar and laundry soap because he worked at the mill, stacking planks all day. She pauses, letting a memory settle. He left with a single canvas bag. Promised he would send for us once he found steady wages. I imagine a younger Elena, maybe 17, waving from a cottage gate while her brother walks up a dirt road, toward distant chimneys. Where did he go? I ask. A town called Rockbridge, she says. At least that's what his last letter claimed. After that, silence. No phone calls, no more letters. She clasps her hands, surprised by their shaking. We tried the police, searched hospitals, even advertised in the newspapers. Nothing. Mr. Whitaker returns with a tray. 2 chipped mugs steaming like small gray clouds. He sets them on a low table and wordlessly squeezes Elena's shoulder before retreating. She wraps both hands around one mug, letting the heat soak into her skin, though she does not drink. When you shouted Michael's name on Sycamore Avenue, I say, I felt your hope before I even understood your words. Hope like that can carry someone for miles. Her eyes meet mine. Do you know what it's like to call a name into every station, every alley, and never hear it come back? An ache rises in my throat. Margaret's name circles my thoughts, but I swallow the memory. I know parts of that feeling, I admit. Grief that walks beside you even when the streets are bright. A thin smile flickers and fades. Then you understand why Michael's name left my lips before I could stop it. The fire pops again. Around us, the shop rests in perfect quiet. No other customers, not even a whisper of turning pages. Outside, the storm presses white palms against the windows, but inside, we linger in a fragile pocket of calm. Elena finally sips her cocoa. Too sweet, she murmurs, though she keeps drinking. Color returns to her cheeks, inch by inch. I've followed false leads before, but none ever looked at me the way you did tonight. Surprised, yes, but also gentle, like you could feel the emptiness I carry. I open my journal, which I rescued from my coat pocket earlier, and turn to a fresh page. May I write about this evening? I ask. Words help me make sense of the unexpected. She hesitates, then nods. If recording it eases your mind, please do. My fountain pen scratches softly across the paper. Snowstorm, December 15th. Lantern Bookshop. Encounter with a woman named Elena Brooks, who mistook me for her brother. As I write, I glance up at her every few sentences, capturing the curve of her hand around the mug, the way lamplight stains her dark hair auburn. She watches the pen glide. Michael kept a journal, she says, voice almost too low to hear. He taught me that writing saves the moments we're afraid to lose. I stop mid-sentence. The coincidence settles between us like new snow. Perhaps that's why you saw him in me, I whisper. Shared habits can weave an invisible likeness. She closes her eyes and lets the warmth from the stove bathe her face. Maybe, she concedes, but likeness is not life. I know that now. Silence folds over us, comfortable this time, as though the air itself needs to rest. I finish my drink, feel heat blooming in my chest. Elena sets her empty mug beside mine and leans back, exhaustion overtaking her. Where will you stay tonight? I ask. I'll find a room at the boarding house near the station, she answers. I have just enough money for 2 nights. After that, I'll move on. Something inside me resists that plan. Maple Glen has kind folk, I say. Stay longer. Rest. Use the town as your harbor until the next step feels clear. She starts to protest, but fatigue wins. I don't want to be a burden. You won't be, I assure her. Accepting help isn't weakness. Even travelers must shelter from the storm. She studies my face again, perhaps seeking the echo of Michael once more. But this time her gaze softens into trust, not confusion. All right, Thomas, she says. I'll stay a while. Relief loosens a knot I didn't know I carried. I close my journal and slide it back into my coat. Outside the snow still falls, but its fury has gentled to a quiet drift. The colored lamp beams across scattered books, turning the aisles into rivers of green, gold, and violet. Elena rises. Thank you for cocoa, for listening, for not turning away when I mistook you. There is no harm in being someone's hope for a moment, I reply. At the doorway she pauses, one hand on the knob, and looks over her shoulder. Good night, Thomas. Good night, Elena. She steps into the snowfall, the bell's faint chime echoing behind her. I remain beneath the lamp, watching through frosted glass as her figure dissolves into white. The name she spoke, Michael, lingers in my ears like a distant melody. Though it does not belong to me, it has linked our stories together, at least for this chapter. I turn back to the empty mugs, the quiet shelves, and the small stove that glows like a heart at rest. Snowflakes tap gently on the window pane, spelling, "Questions I cannot yet answer." I reopen my journal, dip the pen, and write 4 words beneath tonight's entry. Her grief meets mine. Chapter 4. Refuge at the Lantern Bookshop. I stay in the Lantern Bookshop long after Elena steps back into the snow. The bell above the door has stopped ringing, yet its soft note hangs in my mind like the last vibration of a violin string. I close my eyes, hear the hush of the storm outside, and breathe in the warm smell of old paper and cocoa. The room feels safe, almost sacred, as if its walls can hold every story and every sorrow without breaking. Mr. Whitaker clears his throat behind the counter. He is polishing the stained glass lamp with slow, careful circles of a linen cloth. "You look troubled, Thomas," he says. His voice is low, respectful. "Strange night?" I nod. "A very strange night, and it isn't over." He raises an eyebrow, waiting. "Elena Brooks mistook me for her missing brother," I explain. The snow confused her eyes, perhaps, but it was more than that. She carries hope so heavy it bends her view of the world. I glance at the empty armchair where she sat. The cushion still shows the faint imprint of her shape, as if it remembers her presence. Mr. Whitaker folds the cloth and sets it aside. "Hope can be a compass," he says. "But a compass can spin when the storm is strong." I smile at his gentle wisdom. She plans to stay in Maple Glen for a while. She needs rest more than she knows. "And what do you need, my friend?" he asks. I look at the fire glowing behind the stove's black grate. I need to know I did the right thing. I need to believe that offering kindness is enough, even if I can't return her brother to her. He studies me over his spectacles. "Kindness is never wasted, Thomas. Come, help me close up." Together we douse the lamps, stack 2 picture books left on a table, and turn the small wooden sign on the door from open to closed. Outside, the snow still falls, but more gently now, like feathers drifting from some silent white sky. Mr. Whitaker locks the door, then surprises me by pulling a brass key from his vest pocket. "Take this," he says. It opens the side entrance. "Bring Miss Brooks back if she needs shelter tonight." There's a cot upstairs in the storeroom. I keep it for travelers who are caught by the weather. I accept the key. Gratitude warms me in a way the cocoa never could. You're a good man, I tell him. He shrugs, embarrassed by praise. I'm only a bookseller. Stories taught me to help where I can. With that, he tips his hat and disappears into the snow-draped street. Alone, I stand in the dim shop. Shadows lean long over the wooden floorboards, broken only by the steady glow of a single oil lamp near the front window. I listen to the crackle of the stove and imagine Elena walking to the boarding house. I picture her tired feet sliding on the icy walkway, her coat still wet, her hope flickering like a candle in the wind. The thought sends a shiver through me deeper than the winter air. Without thinking, I pull on my coat, pocket Mr. Whitaker's key, and step back into the night. The boarding house sits 3 streets away, a tall brick building trimmed with dark green shutters. A yellow lantern above the door throws a circle of light on the steps. I find Elena standing beneath it, shoulders hunched, speaking with the innkeeper, a stout woman in a plaid shawl. The innkeeper shakes her head, points to a list nailed by the door, and folds her arms. Even at a distance, I understand. No vacancies, or perhaps no credit without full payment up front. Elena thanks her in a thin voice and turns away. She notices me at once, surprise brightening her eyes. Thomas? I thought you went home. I stayed to be sure you found a bed, I say. It seems the boarding house can't help. They're full, she admits. Travelers stranded. By the storm took the last rooms. I reach into my pocket, feel the cool metal of the key. Mr. Whitaker offered the Bookshop loft. It's warm, quiet, and free. Will you accept it? She opens her mouth to refuse, perhaps out of pride, then closes it again. A gust of wind pushes snow against us, and she shivers. Yes, she whispers. Thank you. Together we retrace our steps. The storm has eased, but snow still floats in the glow of each lamppost, turning the world silver. I walk slower than usual so she can keep pace. At last, we reach the narrow alley that runs beside the shop. I unlock a plain wooden door and guide her into a back hallway lined with crates of second-hand novels. The air is cool but dry, scented, with pine-scented cleaning oil. A steep staircase leads to the storage loft. I flick a switch halfway up. A bare bulb ignites, painting the steps in yellow light. Elena follows me, her boots scuffing softly. At the top, we enter a low room with slanted ceilings. Cardboard boxes labeled history and poetry sit against the walls. In the center, a simple metal cot waits, draped with a plaid blanket and a flat pillow. She surveys the space. "It's perfect," she says, voice husky with relief. "There's a small washroom through that door," I tell her, pointing. "Towels, soap, even a spare toothbrush." Mr. Whitaker thinks of everything. She sits on the cot and unties her boots. Her socks are damp and thin. I pull a pair of woolen socks from my coat pocket. Margaret had knitted them years ago, and I kept them in case of cold evenings. Tonight they have found their purpose. "Here," I offer. Elena hesitates. "I can't take those." "They've waited too long in a drawer," I say with a smile. "Let them do their job." She accepts the socks, eyes shining with gratitude she cannot voice. She slips them on, then wraps the blanket around her shoulders. Color floods her cheeks at last. I drag a wooden crate near the cot, turn it upside down as a makeshift table, and set a brass candle on it. From a shelf I take an old navy blue thermos filled with hot water, another of Mr. Whitaker's thoughtful habits. I pour 2 tin cups, drop a tea bag into each, and hand one to her. The loft grows quiet. We sip tea while the wind whispers against the roof like distant surf. Cardboard boxes rustle as they settle, releasing the faint vanilla scent of old pages. Downstairs, the building creaks from a change in temperature, a homey sound. Elena exhales a long breath, shoulders relaxing. "I never imagined ending my day inside a secret room above a bookshop," she says, faint amusement in her tone. "Life enjoys surprise," I reply. "Sometimes surprise is mercy in disguise." Studies me over the rim of her cup. "You don't owe me this kindness, Thomas." "Kindness is not a debt," I answer. "It's a bridge. Tonight we both needed one." Her gaze drifts to a stack of boxes labeled letters and diaries. "May I look?" she asks. "Of course." I fetch a small lantern, and together we kneel by the boxes. She lifts the lid on the daub. First crate. Inside lie bundles of hand-stitched journals, tied with faded ribbons. Some covers are cracked leather, others are stained cloth. A lifetime of voices sleeps here, waiting to be heard. Elena picks up a diary dated 1912. The ink on the spine has bled with time, but we can still read the title, Journeys Across the Northern Sea. She opens to a random page. A neat cursive hand describes a ship's deck under starlight, the taste of salt on the wind, the memory of a lover left behind. She fingers the edges gently, then lowers the book as though fearful of waking the author from eternal rest. "These words survived more than a century," she murmurs. It feels wrong to let my own memories vanish unrecorded. You could start tonight, I suggest. Write a letter to Michael, whether he reads it or not. She sets the diary aside, thoughtful. A letter written in this refuge might carry more hope than one written in despair. I pull my own notebook from my coat. Then let us write together, two travelers under one roof, setting our stories on paper. She nods. I fetch ink, pens, and a clean notebook from a supply shelf. We sit on the floor, backs against a wall, knees bent to hold the notebook steady. The candle flickers, casting gold shapes across our pages. For a while only the soft scratch of pens breaks the quiet. I jot down the events of the evening, the snowstorm, the mistaken identity, the fragile courage in Elena's eyes. Across from me, she fills pages with neat slanted script. Sometimes she pauses, blinks away tears, and continues, when my wrist grows tired. I set my notebook aside and look at her. She writes "Dear Michael" at the top of a fresh page, then stops, hand shaking. She presses her palm over her eyes, steadying herself, and whispers the words aloud as if summoning strength. Dear Michael, tonight I found a stranger who carries your shadow. He is not you, yet he opened a door when every other door was closed. I sit in the loft of a bookshop, safe for the first time in years, and I remember what warmth feels like. She breathes, then continues to write. I feel like an intruder on holy ground, yet she has chosen to speak her letter within my hearing. The trust humbles me. Midnight drifts closer. The storm outside has quieted to a gentle murmur. Flakes tap softly on the skylight above. Elena sets her pen down, closes the notebook, and exhales. Her eyes are tired but clear. I wrote more than I expected, she says. Words flow easiest when the heart is safe, I reply. She folds the notebook into her satchel. Thomas, why do you help me? We met only hours ago. I search for an honest answer. Because once, years back, someone helped me on the worst night of my life. I never forgot the grace of that moment. Tonight, I could pass it forward. Understanding flickers in her expression. She reaches out, touches my hand. Thank you, she whispers. If the world still holds such kindness, perhaps it also holds answers. Fatigue pulls her eyelids low. I stand, extinguish the candle, and move toward the stairs. Rest, Elena. I'll be downstairs at dawn to check on you. She curls under the blanket, the woolen socks peeking from its edge. Good night, Thomas. Good night. I descend the steps, careful not to wake the building. In the dark shop, I sit in the leather armchair by the cold stove, close my eyes, and listen. Above me the wind whirls but cannot reach the loft. Books settle, teacups cool, and two lives, once strangers, begin to knit into quiet companionship. Before sleep claims me, I pray silently for the strength to guide Elena through the days ahead, and for the wisdom to accept whatever truth her search may uncover. The Lantern Bookshop has become a harbor for us both, its shelves not only holding stories, but shaping them. In that warm, hushed refuge, Chapter 4 of our shared tale gently closes, while Chapter 5 waits just beyond, the turning of the page. Chapter 5. Fragments of a Family. I wake before sunrise in the loft above the Lantern Bookshop. Pale light seeps in through the small skylight, dusting the floorboards with a soft glow. The storm has passed. All around, the town lies quiet, under a thin blanket of snow. I dress in layers. Shirt, sweater, coat, and pause to listen. Far below, the shop is still closed for the morning. I can hear only my own breathing and the faint drip of melting snow from the eaves. I head downstairs to check on Elena. The bell by the side door jingles softly when I open it. The shop smells of old leather bindings and clean air. Mr. Whitaker left a note for me. Breakfast in the back room, Thomas. Cocoa and rolls on the table. I find 2 steaming mugs of cocoa beside a plate of warm cinnamon rolls. I carry them carefully upstairs. Elena lies curled on the cot, her notebook open across her chest. She shifts at the sound of my footsteps and lifts her head. Her dark hair is tousled, and her cheeks look brighter than last night. I set a mug by her elbow. She sits up and wraps her hands around it. "Good morning," I say quietly. "Good morning," she replies, her voice still soft with sleep. She takes a sip of cocoa. "Thank you." We eat in silence, each bite and each sip filling the loft with a small sense of normalcy. Outside, the sky brightens to pale blue. I glance at her notebook, at the few lines she wrote. They speak of fear, hope, and the ache of missing someone you love. "Elena," I say at last, "would you like to tell me more about your family? Not only Michael, but the days before he left?" She nods, takes another sip, and sets her mug aside. "Yes, I've told you parts, but there is more to understand who we were. Michael was my only sibling. I am the youngest of 4. My older sister, Clara, stayed home to care for our mother when she fell ill. After Mother died, Clara married and moved to Seattle. We only see each other once a year, if that. I settle onto the edge of the cot. And your father? Elena's face tightens. Father. He worked long hours at the mill. He was a kind man, but he became distant when Mother grew ill. He threw himself into work and seldom spoke at home. When Mother passed, he changed. He drank more, then left the house one morning and didn't return for days. Clara found him in a small town by the river, sick and broken. She brought him home, and he recovered. But after that, he never walked me to school, never read me bedtime stories. His eyes were always tired. She pauses, breathing gently. I understood sorrow early. Michael was the light in our family. He would drum his fingers on the table and make us laugh. He taught me to read by the riverbank. He held a rough copy of Treasure Island and pointed out each word until I could say the whole sentence by heart. Elena smiles at the memory. I still remember the feeling of those pages in my hands, the way his voice sounded when he read aloud. A clock ticks somewhere downstairs. I imagine the bookshop's shelves waiting below, filled with other people's stories. Elena continues. When Michael left, he said he wanted to earn money so Clara could go to college, so Father could finally rest. He carried a canvas bag with his few clothes, his pocket knife, and that copy of Treasure Island. He kissed me before dawn and promised, "I will come back for tea every Sunday." Her voice cracks. But the letters stopped after the third week. Our mailbox held nothing but emptiness. She rises and moves to the crate of old diaries. She rummages until she finds a thin folder labeled Brooks Family in delicate handwriting. "I kept every scrap," she says, unfolding yellowed papers. "Here are my mother's letters to Clara before she became too sick. Here are school reports, Christmas cards, a pressed leaf Michael tucked inside one journal." She spreads the items across the crate's lid. The fragments form a mosaic of past lives. A family photo, Mother in a faded blue dress, Father smiling too proudly beside his workbench, Clara in her graduation cap, and a small picture of Michael with meadows behind him. Each piece bears a date: 1995, 1998, 2001. Elena traces the edges of the photo of her mother. She dreamed of traveling. She wrote about Paris, Rome, cities lit by lanterns on cobblestone streets. But her illness stole her plans. She looks up at me. I never saw her laugh again. I reach out and gently touch her hand. "I'm sorry," I say. "It must have been so hard." She nods, tears glistening but steady. "It was. Yet, despite the pain, We had moments of joy. Birthdays at our old farmhouse, snowball fights with neighbors, late-night stories by candlelight when the power went out. Those moments keep me going. I step to the skylight and look out over the snowy rooftops. You have built a bridge from those memories to this moment. You carried these fragments with you across towns and seasons. Her gaze follows mine. Yes. Each piece reminds me who Michael was. If I ever find him, I want to tell him how much he meant to all of us. How he saved my childhood from darkness. I sit back down beside her. When you find him, his eyes will fill with the same warmth you carry in your heart. But you already keep him alive through these fragments. She arranges the papers in neat piles. What about you, Thomas? Who do you carry in your memories? I recall Margaret's laugh, the way her hair caught the sunlight, the golden glow of our kitchen when we shared morning tea. I remember my sister Ruth's letters, full of news about her children and dusty photos from holiday trips. All of it is in my journals. I smile and she watches me. My wife, I say softly. She died many years ago. I write because I cannot speak her name often without tears. These pages let me hold on to her smile. Elena sets aside the family folder and reaches into her satchel. She produces a small photograph, distinct from the others, an image of two children at a dusty bus stop. A boy wears a cap and carries a canvas bag. A girl clings to his hand. The bus behind them bears the faded name Rockbridge Transit. That's us, she says. Michael and me the day he left. I tried to keep the photo safe under my bed, but I lost it when I moved house 2 years ago. Finding it again felt like fate. I take the photo and study the children's faces. Their eyes shine with excitement and fear. The world behind them stretches out invitingly. This one is precious, I tell her. Keep it close. She nods, slipping it into an inside pocket. I will. She breathes deeply, closing her eyes as though integrating all she has rediscovered. I help her gather the fragments back into the folder. These pages will guide you, I say. Together we will look for other clues, names of towns, dates on letters, scraps of conversation. Elena meets my eyes, newfound resolve shining through her exhaustion. Thank you, Thomas. With your help, these fragments may become a map rather than just memories. I stand, brushing snow from my coat sleeves. Today, let us rest. Tomorrow, we search the archives, talk to townsfolk, and follow every lead. She reaches for her cup and raises it in a quiet toast. To family, she says. I lift my cocoa cup too. To family, in every fragment and every heart. We drink, the warmth spreading through us. Outside, the sun climbs higher, turning the snow to a world of diamonds. Inside the lantern bookshop loft, two travelers, strangers no longer, sit, surrounded by fragments of a family, ready to piece together the story of a brother lost and the family that still waits. Chapter 6. Reflections of Solitude. Morning light in the lantern bookshop loft is muted by heavy clouds on the horizon. I rise quietly so as not to disturb Elena, who still sleeps tucked beneath the woolen blanket, her notebook clutched at her side. Needing fresh air, I slip downstairs and peek out at Maple Glen's main street. The snow has begun to melt into slush, and a few early risers, mail carriers, bakers, and cafe staff, brave the damp chill. I breathe deeply, letting the cold tang fill my lungs. Back in the loft, I find Elena already awake, kneeling by the skylight and watching a flock of sparrows circle above the town square. She turns at my entrance, brushing hair from her face. A faint smile greets me, fragile but real. "Ready for another day?" I whisper. She nods, and together we descend the creaky stairs to the shop floor. Mr. Whitaker has laid out a simple breakfast: bread, cheese, and leftover hot cocoa in a large thermos. We eat in companionable silence, each lost in private thought. Once, our hunger is eased. I fetch my journal and a map of the region from behind the counter. Its lines trace rivers, roads, and the names of small towns stretching beyond Maple Glen. Rockbridge to the north, Pinefall to the east, and the abandoned mill town of Ashford further along. I spread the map on a low table near the window where light is brightest. "Elena," I say, pointing to the map, "let's mark every place Michael might have gone. Even rumors matter." She leans close, her breath fogging the glass. Michael's last letter mentioned the Silver Falls Inn. We assumed it was in Rockbridge, but I never confirmed its exact location. I find Rockbridge and note it with a small circle in my journal. Let's consider Pinefall as well. Some travelers I spoke to mentioned a waterfall by that name, and it's not far from here. Elena traces the route with her finger. If Michael walked south instead of north, he might have reached Pinefall in 2 days. After that, rumors say he boarded a freight train toward Ashford. I tap Ashford on the map. Ashford is nearly deserted. Only a handful of residents remain. We could speak to the postmaster there. He's known for holding mail for travelers who never return to claim it. She rubs her temples. We need to go soon. But first, I need time to prepare. Money, lodging, clothes for travel. Her eyes meet mine, and I need to reflect on why I search, or I will lose myself in the quest. I close my journal. Reflection is as important as action. Tell me what solitude means to you now, after last night's refuge and yesterday's discoveries. Elena sighs, settling onto a stool. Solitude used to be a friend. In my childhood, my room was a sanctuary, full of my mother's letters and my own sketches. But after Michael vanished, solitude became a jail. Walls closing in, echoing empty. Rooms? She gazes at the map as if measuring her loneliness on its contours. For years I filled that jail with my search. Towns, bus stations, libraries, until exhaustion became loneliness's anchor. I lift a cup of cocoa to my lips. I understand. After Margaret died, my cabin's walls pressed closer each winter. Silence that once soothed turned to emptiness. I wrote pages and pages to stave off memories that swallowed me whole. Elena's brow softens. Writing saved me once. Stories of other travelers, tales of the sea. But living my own story felt too painful. Until now, I never wrote for hope, only for grief. I set my cup down. Hope can be written too. Each word is a step out of solitude, a reach towards someone else's hand. I flip to a fresh page. Let's write together. Reflections on solitude, so we remember why we journey, not just where. She picks up a pen, nods. Okay. For an hour we write side by side. My entry begins. Solitude is a mirror held to the soul. In its stillness I confront my memories, both beloved and painful. It teaches me that loss and longing are threads in the same tapestry. Elena's entry reads, Solitude once sheltered me from sorrow. Now it reveals the depths of it. Yet within silence lies the chance to listen, to the heartbeat of hope that calls me forward. When we pause, I ask, what emotions surfaced most as you wrote? She reflects. Sadness, yes, but also gratitude. For the nights I slept under, stars instead of a roof for the diaries that gave me company, and for the stranger who became my witness. I nod. Acknowledging gratitude can lighten solitude's weight. We create our own light in darkness. Elena closes her notebook. I feel stronger, more certain why I search. It's not to reclaim Michael alone, but to reclaim myself. To find where hope resides. I smile. And where does hope reside? She looks out the window at a single snowdrop blooming by the doorstep. In unexpected kindness, in stories shared, and in the promise of dawn after the longest night. Outside, a cart rattles by. The postman waves through frosted glass. A new day is stirring in Maple Glen. We rise and fold our maps and journals, sealing our reflections in pen and paper. Tomorrow, I say, we travel to Rockbridge. We'll start at the inn in Michael's letter and work our way back here. Elena grips my arm. Thank you for listening, Thomas. You've shown me that solitude can be shared, and that reflections can become compass points. I nod, touched by her words. We're no longer alone in our stories. Together, our memories guide us. Before leaving the shop, we pause under the stained glass lamp. Its colored panes filter morning light into shifting patterns. The bookshop, once merely a refuge, is now the cradle of our shared journey. We step into the crisp air, boots crunching on the thawing path. Each footstep carries purpose. Each breath carries hope. As dawn breaks over Maple Glen, two travelers step out of solitary reflections and into a world alive with possibility, ready to follow the threads woven by grief, memory, and the enduring promise of connection. Chapter 7. The Burden of Belief. The morning sun glinted off the melting snow as Elena and I climbed into my old blue sedan for the drive north to Rockbridge. The road stretched silver and slick under bare trees, and steam drifted from the radiator vents. Inside, Elena stared out the passenger window, her breath fogging the glass in soft clouds. I keep thinking, she began, voice low, that if I could only believe this was truly Michael, then maybe the ache would ease. Glanced at her, heart tightening. Belief can be a comfort, I said gently. But it can also weigh you down when reality falls away. She turned to face me, eyes earnest. Last night, in the loft, I almost convinced myself that seeing you was a miracle, that Michael had returned exactly as I remembered him. For a moment, that hope lifted the weight I've carried for years. The car rumbled over a small bridge spanning Maple Creek. Icicles hung from the guardrails. I touched her hand briefly. Holding on to hope is important, Elena. But when that hope rests on a person who isn't there, it becomes a burden rather than a blessing. She bit her lip, nodded slowly. I know. Yet without that burden, I fear I will forget him entirely. Forget the sound of his laugh, the way he tucked my hair behind my ear so gently. Her voice wavered. I want to honor him, but I also want to live. I turned onto Highway 12, the road leading directly to Rockbridge. Carrying your brother's memory doesn't require convincing yourself strangers are him, I said. His memory lives in you, in these fragments you've collected, in the letters you write, and in the kindness you witnessed last night. Silence reigned for a few miles, broken only by the soft hum of tires on wet pavement. Elena stared at her hands in her lap. Finally, she whispered, "I'm afraid that if I let go of hoping you were Michael, I won't have anything left." I slowed the car to a crawl at an intersection. What if the memory of Michael is not tied to a face, but to a feeling? That feeling you had when he read to you by the riverbank, when he promised to return. You can hold on to that feeling without mistaking me for him. Tears shimmered in her eyes. She swallowed hard, then nodded. I want to believe that. But the moment I saw you, I felt the flood of relief, as though all those years of searching had led to you. I parked the car by the empty platform of the Rockbridge station. Snow lay in patches on the concrete. We stepped out into the crisp air, my legs stiff from driving, Elena's knees wobbling from long confinement in emotion. "Come," I said, pointing toward the small shuttered ticket office. "Let's start here." Inside the old station building, the paint peeled from wooden walls. A kiosk sign read, "Rockbridge Transit," above dusty benches. I found a small office door marked Station Master. I knocked. A grizzled man in a navy blue uniform appeared, eyes narrow behind round glasses. "Morning," I said. "I'm Thomas Hayes, and this is Elena Brooks. We're searching for her brother, Michael Harper. He was last rumored to be in Rockbridge a decade ago." I held up Michael's faded photograph. The station master studied the photo. Harper, can't say I remember him, but I do handle unclaimed mail and packages." He led us to a filing cabinet stacked with pigeonholes, each labeled with a year. "I keep letters, packages. They stay here if no one comes to get them." Elena's breath caught. She watched as he pulled out a dusty shoebox labeled 2015. He opened it, revealing a stack of yellowed envelopes tied with string. Elena's fingers trembled as she lifted the bundle. "They're addressed to a Miss E. Brooks," she said, voice hushed. I caught her eye. "Would you like to open one?" She nodded, careful not to shake the bundle too hard. The station master handed her a small engraving knife. She sliced the string and unfolded the top envelope. Inside lay a letter in spidery handwriting. "Dear Elena, if you're reading this, know that I missed your last train. I will come soon. Keep your light in the window as I promised. Love, Michael." Her lips trembled around the words. He wrote, "That," she whispered. He remembered the window light. I placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. He did remember. You can trust these words more than any shadow in the snow. Tears spilled over her cheeks, and she pressed the letter to her heart. Relief and sorrow blended on her face. I believed you were him, but this is truly his voice. Her confession spilled forth. I carried the burden of belief like armor, thinking it would protect me from despair. Instead, it trapped me in a loop of longing, unable to move forward or let go. I guided her to a bench. Belief must be balanced by evidence. Now you have his letter, solid proof of his love and his promise. You can honor his memory by following the trail he left, not by clinging to shadows. She nodded, turning the envelope over in her hands. Will you stay with me as I read the rest? She asked. I sat beside her. Together we carefully unfolded the other letters, each confirming small details. A job at a logging camp near Pinefall. A photograph of a waterfall with a note, thinking of you, and a newspaper clipping from Ashford mentioning a traveler named Harper who helped clear storm-damaged tracks. Each fragment carried weight far greater than mistaken identity. By the time we left the station, the sun had climbed higher, and shadows retreated from the snowy fields. Elena folded the letters and slipped them into her satchel with reverent care. On the drive back to Maple Glen, she spoke quietly. The burden of belief is gone, Thomas. Now I believe in him through his own words. It frees me to keep searching and to keep living. I smiled, relief blooming like spring crocus through winter snow. Your brother's story is unfolding through you. You carry it, not like armor, but like a lantern guiding you forward. She reached out and squeezed my hand. Thank you for helping me carry this burden until I could shoulder the weight myself. As the road curved toward home, the burden she once bore had transformed into purpose. Belief, once a trap, had become a bridge, built on genuine fragments of family rather than illusions in the snow. And in that truth lay the promise of every chapter yet to come. Chapter 8. Kindness in Truth. Today's dawn breaks crystal clear over Maple Glen, the snowbanks glinting like scattered diamonds. I find Elena in the Lantern Bookshop early, sitting at the front display table, head bowed over Michael's letters. Her notebook lies open beside her, filled with neat lines of her reflections. When I enter, she looks up, brushes a loose strand of hair from her face, and offers me a small, grateful smile. Good morning, Thomas, she says softly. Morning, Elena, I reply, placing a fresh pot of tea between us. I have chosen chamomile. Today, the gentle warmth will soothe any remaining tension in her shoulders. She pours us each a cup, and steam curls upward in lazy spirals. We sit opposite one another, the stained glass lamp casting warm hues across the wooden table. Outside, the town stirs awake. A milk wagon clatters down the street, and a few early shoppers hurry by under umbrellas against a final sprinkling of powder. I clear my throat. Yesterday, we uncovered letters that spoke Michael's own voice. Today, I want us to discuss the kindness in truthful memory, how we can use the facts we have to guide you forward, rather than chasing shadows. Elena nods, curling her gloved hands around the teacup. I'm ready. I retrieve the worn map from yesterday's journey and spread it out. Let's mark each confirmed location from Michael's letters. The logging camp near Pinefall, the Silver Falls Inn in Rockbridge, the freight depot outside Ashford, and the small chapel in Harper's Hollow where he volunteered one winter. She leans in, her eyes bright. Yes. And the waterfall photograph had a note. Taken at dawn, where the river meets the pine. That must be near Pinefall. I press a finger on the map. Exactly. With each fact we verify, we build a true path, stone by stone, rather than relying on hope alone. That is kindness in truth, honoring Michael's journey as it was, so we don't mislead your heart. Elena sips her tea, then closes her eyes in thought. Last night I dreamed of him, working with tired hands to repair a storm-battered bridge. In my dream, I heard his quiet laughter, but when I woke, I realized my memory had filled in the gaps. I created hope from absence. I fold my hands, nodding. Our compassion is powerful, but directing compassion with truth spares us the pain of false reunion. You deserve real answers, real closure, built on concrete details, not on mistaken faces. She uncovers her notebook and reads an entry aloud. Compassion must be grounded in honesty. When we hide the truth out of kindness, we risk causing deeper wounds. I want Michael found, but not at the cost of chasing illusions. Her voice trembles slightly, but she continues. Thomas, will you help me write to the logging camp owner in Pinefall? If we craft a respectful letter, perhaps someone there remembers. My brother by name. I smile, already reaching for stationery and ink. Let's do it now. We work side by side, composing a letter that balances heartfelt emotion with clear facts. Dear Mr. Conrad, my name is Elena Brooks. In 2015, my brother, Michael Harper, mentioned working at Conrad Logging. I have his letters, but no names beyond your company. If you recall a young man of about 27 with a love for reading by the river, I would be grateful for any information you could share. With sincere thanks, Elena Brooks. Elena dips the pen, stamps her signature with deliberate care, and folds the paper. Kindness and truth, she murmurs, even in the way we ask for help. We seal the letter and address the envelope. I find stamps on the counter, and we walk together to the postbox outside, her steps confident for the first time in days. We slip the letter into the slot, its flap disappearing with a soft whoosh, as though hope itself has been entrusted to the mailman's hands. Back in the shop, we settle into the armchairs by the potbelly stove. Our tea is cold now, but its comfort lingers. I open my own journal. Today, Elena sent a letter founded on truths, not on trembling hope. She is learning that the truest kindness we can offer ourselves and those we seek is honesty. Elena glances at my entry. Keep writing for me, Thomas. Seeing our progress on paper keeps me grounded. I close the journal and lean forward. We've taken another step in clarity. Now, would you like to visit the town archives? The registrar in Maple Glen might have forwarded Michael's arrival records when he passed through here in 2015. Her eyes light up. Yes, a record here would confirm his route for certain. We stand, gathering coats and notebooks. Mr. Whitaker nods as we pass. He has overheard our plan. Good luck, he says, and his eyes carry genuine warmth. Truth is a fine companion. We step into the crisp air together. The world seems sharper now, edges defined by truth rather than foggy longing. The chill on my cheeks feels tethered to purpose rather than emptiness. At the archives, we are greeted by Ms. Pennington, the town registrar. She leads us through narrow corridors lined with filing cabinets. Elena's letter and Michael's photograph rest in her hands. Ms. Pennington consults her ledgers, fingertips tracing handwritten entries. Yes. December 20th, 2015. A Mr. Michael Harper passed through on the evening train and registered as a guest at the Riverside Inn. He stayed 2 nights before moving on. Elena exhales, tears glinting in her eyes, tears of relief, not disappointment. That confirms he was here, she says, voice steady. I squeeze her hand. Kindness and truth has brought this gift. Certainty. We thank Ms. Pennington and step outside. The sky is now wide and clear, edges of clouds painted gold by the sun. Elena turns to me, drawing a deep breath and smiling. Thank you, Thomas, she says, for guiding me with kindness and truth. I finally feel I'm following Michael's real path, not chasing a mirage. I return her smile. You've done the hard work. I simply walked by your side. We head back toward the Lantern Bookshop, our notebooks full of verified facts and our hearts lightened by honest progress. In the pure glow of morning, we understand that the greatest kindness lies not in comforting delusions, but in tenderly revealing the truth and walking its path together. Chapter 9: The Promise of Pages. I stand behind the counter of the Lantern Bookshop before dawn breaks, my heart thrumming with a mixture of excitement and nerves. Today is the day Elena's letters will find an audience beyond these walls. I have spent the past week preparing. I polished the wooden floorboards until they gleamed, arranged the chairs in a semicircle around the reading area, and strung a single strand of soft amber fairy lights above the front window. An old brass sign on the door now reads, "Evening Reading, Letters to Michael." I step back and survey the room bathed in early light. Shelves of books, the potbelly stove humming low, and the small podium where I will introduce our gathering. Elena arrives shortly after sunrise, her breath visible in the crisp morning air. She's carrying a worn leather satchel bulging with her notebooks and the carefully folded pages of letters she has written to Michael. Her cheeks carry a rosy glow, and for the first time in our months of searching, I see calm determination in her eyes instead of lingering doubt. "Good morning, Thomas," she says softly, placing her satchel on the table by the window. "Are you ready?" I nod, giving her a reassuring smile. "Everything's set. I think tonight will mean a great deal for all of us." She takes a deep breath, smoothing her coat. "I've practiced reading aloud. I want to share not only the words but the feelings behind them. We spend the day in quiet preparation." I set out steaming mugs of tea, chamomile and peppermint for our guests, and arrange plates of crisp shortbread on a low-side table. Elena selects a small vase of wildflowers from a neighbor's garden, snowdrops, tiny sprigs of forsythia, and a single lavender stalk, and places them on the podium. With each detail, the bookshop transforms into a warm sanctuary for shared stories. As dusk falls, townspeople begin to arrive. Mrs. Pennington, the registrar, is first, her kindly smile visible behind her wool scarf. Mr. Conrad, the logging camp owner from Pinefall, steps in next, phone in hand and curiosity bright in his eyes. A handful of regular customers, bakers, teachers, and the station master, filter in, settling into the chairs. Soon the semicircle is filled. More stand along the back wall, leaning comfortably against shelves. I dim the overhead lights and switch on the fairy lights, their glow reflecting off the spines of hundreds of books. The room hushes as I step to the podium and tap the microphone once, a gentle ping, to test the sound. Good evening, I begin, voice steady but warm. Thank you all for coming to the Lantern Bookshop tonight. We have gathered to hear a truly special story, told not through adventure novels or history tomes, but through personal letters written from one heart to another. These letters were penned by Elena Brooks to her brother, Michael Harper, who disappeared 10 years ago. What you will hear are promises of love, fragments of memory, and the unwavering hope that binds family together. I lower my voice to a softer tone. Elena has shown me what it means to carry kindness through truth. Now she will share with you the promise of her pages. A gentle ripple of applause rises as Elena steps up to the podium. She places her folder on the small lectern and looks out at the faces before her, some familiar, some meeting her for the first time. Her voice is quiet at first. Dear Michael, I write to you tonight beneath these same lantern lights that once warmed our childhood home. I imagine you reading these words by a flickering fire, as I once did when you read to me. She pauses, collecting strength, and the room breathes with her. A single snowdrop from the vase catches the fairy light glow, as if leaning in to listen. She continues, I remember the day you left, the canvas bag slung over your shoulder, the promise of return written in your smile. Since then, I have chased every rumor and surveyed every map in hopes of finding you. But tonight, instead of searching, I write directly to you, trusting that these words will carry my love across any distance. As she reads, I notice soft nods from neighbors, glistening eyes in the back row, and a subtle lean of the station master toward the podium. Her words resonate beyond her own grief. They touch on the universal longing for connection. Elena unfolds the next page. I want to tell you about Maple Glen in winter. The way the snow muffles the world into silent beauty, how the lantern lights glow like stars caught on earth. I wish you could see the new plum tree planted by the mill, its buds waiting for spring, just as our hope waits for your return. Her voice steadies, weaving imagery of home and nature into a tapestry of memory. The guests lean forward as though drawn into the story themselves. When she finishes the letter, the room falls completely silent. Only the quiet hum of the stove remains. Then, slowly, applause swells. Soft at first, then stronger, until the Walls seem to glow with appreciation and shared humanity. I rise from my seat and join her at the podium. "Thank you, Elena," I say. "Your words remind us that stories are not confined to paper. They live in our hearts and connect us across time." Mr. Conrad steps forward, clearing his throat. "If I may," he says, voice husky, "I wanted to thank you both. Those of us who knew Michael at the logging camp will cherish every word you read tonight. He spoke of you often, Elena." Elena's eyes fill with tears of relief and joy. "Thank you, Mr. Conrad," she whispers. Knowing he was remembered kindles my hope all over again. One by one, others share their own memories. The station master recalls Michael's offer to shovel snow off the tracks. Mrs. Pennington remembers filing his transit records with a polite note in the margin. Each anecdote adds a new fragment to the mosaic of Michael's life. Finally, I invite Elena to read one more passage, her closing letter. "Dear Michael, I promise to carry your memory forward in every page I write and every story I share. Even if our paths never cross again, your spirit lives in me, in the gentle flutter of snow, in the glow of lantern light, and in the promise that love endures beyond absence. Until we meet again, know that my heart travels with you." As she reads, I glance around the room. The Lantern Bookshop is no longer just a refuge. It is a bridge between past and present, between strangers and family, between loss and hope. When she concludes, the applause is thunderous and filled with tears and smiles. Guests rise to their feet, some embracing her, others clasping her hand. In that moment, I understand the true promise of pages. They carry our deepest truths and bind us together in ways no spoken word can match. Elena and I gather our notebooks and letters, hearts light and spirits renewed. The promise we made to Michael and to each other now extends to everyone who attended tonight. Our shared story will live on in their hearts, ensuring that love and hope continue to travel, one page at a time. Chapter 10. Dawn of Tomorrow. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the tall windows of the Lantern Bookshop, painting the shelves and scattered books in soft gold. I arrived before sunrise, as was my habit now, and found Elena already awake, standing by the front display where the fairy lights still hung. Her silhouette was slender against the pale glow, and for a moment I simply watched her. This brave woman who had walked so far in search of her brother, and who now stood on the threshold of a new beginning. Good morning, Thomas, she whispered, turning at my approach. In her hand she held the final unmailed letter, a letter written on crisp stationery, addressed simply, "To wherever you are, Michael." Her eyes gleamed with purpose rather than sorrow. "Good morning, Elena," I replied softly. "It's a beautiful dawn." I gestured to the courtyard outside, where the sky was streaked in pink and lavender. A few sparrows hopped through the melting snow, pecking at seeds left by Mrs. Pennington, and the town beyond the shop door was waking slowly, shopkeepers sweeping their steps, the distant hum of a milk cart's metal wheels. Elena set her letter on the podium. "Last night's reading changed everything," she said, voice steady. "Hearing Mr. Conrad and others speak of Michael gave me new strength. Now I want to send one final message, one that speaks to all possibilities, whether he receives it or not." I nodded. "Tell me what you'd like to say." She drew in a breath, smoothing the paper flat. "I want to thank him for everything he gave me. The stories, the bravery, the promise of return. Then I want to tell him that my journey continues, not just to find him, but to live fully in his honor." I fetched my fountain pen and a small brass ink well. Sunlight warmed the ink, turning it deep blue. Elena put pen to paper and wrote, "Dear Michael, this morning, as dawn broke over Maple Glen, I felt your presence in every golden beam. Your letters and your memory carried me here, to a place of stories shared and hope restored. Thank you for teaching me to believe in kindness, to treasure truth, and to carry love beyond absence. Though our paths have not yet crossed, know that I will continue forward, guided by the promise of your pages. In every letter I write, every story I share, and every act of kindness I offer another traveler, your spirit lives on. I do not know where you are, but I believe that destiny has many forms. If someday our roads converge, I will greet you not as the little sister who waited, but as the friend and fellow traveler your journey inspired me to become. Until then, may the dawn of tomorrow bring you safety, peace, and the knowledge that you are never truly alone." "With all my heart, Elena." When she finished, she folded the page and sealed it with a small wax emblem, an imprint of a lantern symbolizing the light we had found in each other's company. She tucked the letter into her satchel alongside the others. I watched her face, struck by how the lines of worry had softened into resolution. "Are you ready for whatever comes next?" I asked. She closed her satchel with quiet determination. "Yes. Whether I deliver this letter by post, leave it here, In the bookshop for a traveling stranger to find or carry it forward in my own heart, I am ready. Outside, a soft chime marked the opening of the front door. Mr. Whitaker stepped in, wiping his hands on a cloth, and smiled at us both. "Morning." "To you," he said. "I saw the vase of flowers by the door, snowdrops and spring forsythia. Beautiful choice." Elena returned his smile. "Thank you. Today feels like the true first day of spring." He nodded. "I'll keep the doors open longer. You never know who might come looking for a story. Or for Michael." I helped Elena hang the final letter on a simple hook next to the reading podium, where it would be visible to any passerby. The seal gleamed in the morning sun, a beacon of hope and an invitation. As the shop filled with the soft aroma of brewing tea and the creak of leather-bound spines, I realized that our journey was not ending, it was transforming. The search for Michael had brought us together, taught us about truth and compassion, and led us to create a haven where stories and hearts meet. By mid-morning, townsfolk trickled in to browse books and share quiet greetings. Elena stood behind the counter, greeting each visitor with warmth and bright eyes. I watched her hand a volume of travel memoirs to a young woman who reminded me of her younger self, eager, curious, searching. In that moment, I saw how profoundly Elena had changed, from a solitary seeker burdened by hope to a storyteller inviting others to hold their own truths. I stepped outside into the courtyard, inhaled the crisp air, and let the sun warm my face. The melting snow carried promise of new growth. The sparrows hopped between patches of uncovered grass, unafraid of shadows. Beyond Maple Glen, the world stretched out, roads leading to Rockbridge, Pinefall, Ashford, and countless other places. All were open to us now. Inside, I heard the low murmur of conversation and the rustle of pages being turned. The Lantern Bookshop was alive with possibility. I smiled, knowing that in every book taken from its shelves, in every letter read aloud in its cozy light, our story would ripple outward. Dawn had given way to morning, and with it came a simple, profound truth. Every new day offers a chance to begin again. For Elena, the promise of pages would carry her forward, beyond grief, beyond searching, into a future she would write herself. For me, the journey of kindness and truth would continue, guiding any traveler who sought refuge in words. As I re-entered the shop, the bell above the door sang a gentle welcome. Elena looked up and met my gaze. In her eyes I saw gratitude and something more. excitement for the unwritten chapters yet to come. "Shall we open?" I asked. She nodded, and together we unlocked the old oak door, inviting the world inside. The dawn of tomorrow had arrived, and with it, the promise that every story, no matter how painful or long delayed, can find its way to a new beginning. Great work today! Every moment you spend practicing brings you closer to mastering your English listening and speaking skills. Remember, progress comes with patience and consistency. If this story inspired you or helped you in your learning journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Easy English Spark channel for more lessons and stories. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep believing in your growth. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining.